Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, y'all. We're live and lit. Me and Shane Manziel. We're going to go into a lot more topics here. One that I would like to just hit off top, Shane, is Midland and these illegals. A post went viral. You know the gentleman that wrote this.
Yes.
Some people said that it was fake news, or that they didn't really believe it. Even I couldn't really believe it when I read it. I did a video on it. I shared it on all of my platforms. It did reach thousands of people. They're talking about the West Texas Food Bank. Now, I think there's a bunch of problems with a lot of nonprofits.
Right.
But this ain't the pod for that. But I think that's something that needs to be looked at, because I think there's a lot of fraud happening in that sector. But the point is, this gentleman, right? Did you read the post?
Yeah, I read his original post.
Okay, so with that, I just want to state here that I saw some Venezuelans here at the outside of Home Depot again. I did a video a while back, spoke to one of them, and I made a post on Facebook and on Nextdoor. And it's pretty crazy, Shane, to see the response of West Texans. You know, they're like, oh, you know, give them a chance or whatever. Guys, right now, there's a crisis happening. My wife just saw the video of a woman eating a cat. Okay, I forgot what city it is. It went viral on Twitter. There's rumors and there's circulations of videos of Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes in Colorado. Haitians, I think that's in Ohio. There's a bunch of issues with illegal aliens in the United States of America, and we're going to touch on that here. But again, I say all that to point back to West Texas in this post. Now, can you give us a breakdown, Shane, of that post and your thoughts on it? Go ahead.
Well, the first thing I would say to that is that, you know, the people that say give them a chance, you know, I can't blame somebody for wanting a better life. But if you're one of those people saying give them a chance, they're just here for a better life and to work, that is the reason why your wages are not growing with inflation. The cost of everything is going up, but your wages are staying the same because every day they bring another 5,000 people that'll work for cheap. And as long as they have people that will work for cheap, they're not going to raise your wages.
And I was just talking about that before we went live, Shane. I'm a trucker, and the trucking industry has really gone down. But me being an oil hauler in West Texas, I'm still running on rates, you know, from years back. The rates are not increasing for me being a trucker in West Texas. And I would say that's probably across the board with a bunch of companies. I don't think nobody out here is really, I'm not saying getting rich, but nobody's out here really, you know, making a lot of money in the field, especially under the last administration, the last 4 years, is getting tougher and tougher. And then with the grocery situation. But again, back to the wages, Shane, our money, if you notice, ladies and gentlemen, I know I've noticed the rates, the wages are not going up. You say they're not going up because of why, in layman's terms?
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, and I would tell you, if I owned a business and I had 100 employees and it cost me an extra $300 per week for my per employee, you're looking at $30,000 a week in increased labor costs to have an American as opposed to somebody that just came across the border. You know, and even speaking on, you know, on the issue of West Texas Food Bank that Steve posted about, I mean, many of the people that usually are coming to that food bank, like he said, you know, are elderly or single moms or whatever that need help. Many of them still work, but they're not making a great wage, you know, and for them to see the cost of groceries go up as much as they have when they're already living day to day. I mean, I can just tell you, to be trying to show up and get in line at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning for something they start dispersing at 10 a.m. and to have to compete with people that just came across the border, or like he said, you know, several of the cars, they're finding more and more of the vehicles will have 3 or 4 grown men in them that are just coming up there to get the food. I mean, can you imagine if every one of us did that? I mean, would I like to have the $500 I spend every 2 weeks on groceries in my pocket? I sure would, but I'm not going to go up there and take food from a place that's helping people that are less fortunate than I am.
Man, you brought up a hell of a point, Shane. I'm pretty sure it's a racket, but what if they're all, what if they go at different times, or what if they have different families or different members of the same household. How are we going to prove it, right? And they all go. They're like scheming the system. I'm not saying that's happening, but what if they are? But imagine how much more pressure that puts on the nonprofit, and how many people are probably being left without if they're doing things that I think someone that's here illegally, right? If they're already here illegally, they're breaking the law first and foremost. But it makes me think that these people actually have a plan or a plot in order to get over.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I'm not going to say it's human nature, but let's go back to one of the first, I guess, government subsidies that I ever took advantage of, and that was the free lunches when I was in school. And I remember when that started, everybody was happy. Oh, Mama don't got to give me no change to get lunch. And what did we start doing? We'd eat, and then we'd hurry up and eat, and then get back in line. And that created a problem in and of itself. When enough of us started doing that, they're like, well, we don't have enough food to feed everybody. And what's on the menu. And so then they started coming out with little rectangular cards that they had to punch the hose on, because so many of us were going and eating 2 or sometimes 3 times. You can't blame a kid for wanting to eat if he's still hungry. But when you give something to somebody like that, somebody that's able-bodied and able to provide for themselves, I feel like you create a predatory mindset in them and says, what else can I get? What else can I take?
That's crazy. That's probably the more dangerous. Yeah, so you're making me think over here.
I mean, seriously.
I want to get to this actual post, but damn. And like I told my wife, because it really tripped me out on Nextdoor and even on Facebook. People are saying, leave him alone, this and that and the third. I'm like, you don't even know who this person is. You don't know what crimes they've committed. And I told my wife when we were walking out of Home Goods or we were somewhere, I said, they don't even know where these people have come from. And these people are not going to tell you, like I interviewed the gentleman outside of Home Depot. He told me what he wanted me to hear, but they're not going to tell us what they've done or who they are or the crimes they committed. It's kind of like everybody on social media. You're not going to say the worst parts of your life. Some will, but I digress. The point is, they're not going to tell you the whole truth, right? They're going to conceal certain things, and you might not even know. That could be a predator or someone that's despicable, wanted in another country, and here they are at the Helping Hands or at the West Texas Food Bank taking food from elderly people that were probably even born here in West Texas, and people are even feeling sympathy for these people. I'm just be simple and plain, Shane. I always say, build the wall, deport them all. If you're here illegally, you got to go. Especially when I'm a tax-paying citizen. I have an S corp, and I'm paying taxes out the wazoo, and I'm seeing my damn city going to crap. It pisses me off, And I understand what you said. Who would blame somebody for wanting to come to the greatest country in history? I'm going to say, right? But at the same time, there's rules and laws that need to be followed. And I told my wife, don't send your kids to school, or don't even V them up, for God forbid, or stop paying your property taxes and see what the city's going to do to you. They're going to come after you and try to take your property, take your kids. I mean, it's a big old racket in that sense too. But that's why the illegal immigration is a big problem in my book. But I don't think, like you said earlier, I don't think it's going to get solved, because this is just a political ploy. It's a maneuver they pull to, I would even say, keep us divided. But they got us looking at this when they're doing money to different countries, and they're doing all kinds of laundry on the side, and we're focused on this to a certain degree, and they're shuffling billions and trillions out the door, and we're just looking at all this money leaving, and we're just pissed off about it. And what else can we really do?
Well, if Trump has the fortitude and he's able to get reelected, if they don't get rid of him first, if he has the fortitude, it can be done. It needs to be done with some kind of basic respect for humanity. And what I mean by that is the first thing is that Trump has got to explain to these companies and to the American people, many of these companies have been lobbying and donating to keep this border open because they need to keep labor costs low. but we're going to make them come into the cities, and we're going to make them offer job fairs and training to teach people to be HVAC, plumbers, welders, truck drivers, all of these things. Because if they're willing to pay these illegals $75,000, $110,000 a year to operate equipment and drive trucks and all that they're doing, we want you all to have these opportunities. And once that gets in the process, then you come back and you look, and I understand the sentiment, but you can't undo what's already done.
I agree.
And I would say this, that a fair appraisal, in my estimation, would be if you've been here 5 years and you have a family and you haven't committed a felony and you don't receive government assistance, you're at that top tier of having a possibility of staying here and going through a citizenship process. If you've committed a felony, you're gone. If you're on government assistance, you're going back to your country of origin. We look at what's happening, and Chicago is a good example. And the residents are so upset over there to see the resources being given to these illegals, and rightfully they're rightfully upset. We would have neither of these issues if the government had looked these business owners and these corporations in the eye and said, that's not going to work. You're going to have to make this work. You're going to have to go in, and instead of going to the Texas Workforce Commission and getting 25 phone numbers, or going to Home Depot and finding 10 guys that walked across the border the day before yesterday, you're going to have to go into Oak Cliff in Dallas, and you're going to have to go into 5th Ward and 3rd Ward in Houston, and you're going to have to let these guys know, hey, we will train you. We will teach you everything you need to know. You give people an opportunity to come get trained and educated in a field that will let them marry, have children, and raise children. And once you do that, everybody doesn't want to be in that situation. How many people, I'm sure you know people, I know people, they feel like there is no upside to getting a job and playing the game, because the only jobs they can find in their community, they think, are McDonald's or Wendy's or Circle K or whatever, where they're going to struggle and struggle and struggle with no possibility of ever getting out of where they're at or the circumstances that they're in. But you do that, and I think you start with that. You start that pipeline and that process of getting these corporations hooked up with American people that want these opportunities, and then you start the process of deporting based on you have to have a definitive merit system, either based on you're a doctor and we need more doctors, but you can't. If they continue to let it go like they've let it go, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to drive us to bankruptcy faster than we're going to get there ourselves. That does, when we talk about that, the meritocracy or somebody earning something, the people in these inner cities, by birthright, they've been blessed, but just by birthright to be born in these United States, but their circumstances and then all of the filters they receive information from, that's a big part of the reason we have so much hatred for America, for this system. And I will say, absolutely, this country and its economic system has blessed more people from more backgrounds than any system ever devised by man. But once you mix the corporatism and the cronyism in, and the government starts actively picking winners and losers who they're going to give government contracts to, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Now, I want to go back to this post by your buddy, right? That's your friend. He said this is one of the most alarming, points he makes here is the beware portion, because he explains what's happening. They go at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. They're getting, groceries and help and whatnot at West Texas Food Bank. I guess, of course, food. He says, here is the beware portion. This past yesterday, I saw more carloads of men only, both from Cuba and Venezuela. And they were all applying for the free monthly food, and they had tons of them carpooling. And again, men only. With all the Venezuelan gangs in the news taking over things, it appears to me that they're here on our doorstep, people. Now, with that statement, Shane, let me ask you, is there cause for alarm with this person making this statement, or do you think he's going overboard, or do you think that we should take heed to this warning that they're basically here at our doorstep?
If you're not alarmed, you're not paying attention. What we see in these other cities, all the big cities that have been welcoming and subsidizing these people for decades, they went from some kind of livable arrangement with all the illegals and immigrants, you know, in New York City, Chicago, all of these places for years and years and years. But now that they're swamped, they're literally swamped, they're overwhelmed. And you see what's happening, the crime, the targeting of women. Women don't feel safe in those streets.
I think Sister Rhonda, we have a question for her that I want you to address in a minute, but I think she's the one that said she don't even like going shopping in Midland.
Yeah, well, I can tell you even on the north side Walmart, man, you go in there and there's some shady looking dudes.
Bro.
You know, and I don't mean, you know, like flirting with women or something like that. One of the worst things you can do as a man, in my opinion, is, you know, you're in Walmart. Even if by pure chance I was in Walmart alone and I turn down an aisle and there's a woman and she starts walking, and by pure coincidence, if I'm going to the same item she's going to and we're going to have to make 2 or 3 turns, if I make one turn behind her and then she turns the next place I needed to go, I'm going to go a different way just because I understand that it can be it can make a woman very uncomfortable or nervous because they don't know who the good guys and bad guys are. If women knew who the good guys and bad guys were, we wouldn't be in this situation. I mean, they elect the bad guys all the time.
Shane, man, thank you for that, because I totally agree. You know, for a man to take advantage of a woman, as you know, in any sense, is wrong. But you're right. If we're around them to make them feel like they're being followed, trapped, or something, that's horrible. You know why? Because I have a wife,
right,
and I have a daughter, right? Yes. I hate for them to feel like that. Mm-hmm. I would want a man to have some kind of dignity and respect, and offer or hopefully have the same mindset that you would have. But let's be honest. Not everybody thinks like that.
Right.
You know, if I go to the store, you know, I've seen it many times. I got to basically walk next to my daughter. There's men lusting over my daughter, and sometimes I'm almost getting in fist fights in Walmart in the aisle, you know. Yeah. You know, it don't ever go to that, but I'm just saying, like, have some common decency, and especially if you're a male, you know, put your tongue in your mouth and quit lusting over these women in public, men. You know, have some self-respect. But good point about Walmart, because that north side Walmart, it's more crazier than the south side Walmart. Yeah. I'm right here in the hood, right down the street.
Yeah, this is more respectful over here.
The north side Walmart, I talk a lot. You know how we are, Shane. I'm a talker, and spoken to the employees there, and they tell me the same thing too. This is Cubanville. This is there's Cubans and everything here in this Walmart, and you see them walking everywhere. And hey, I'm not trying to be biased towards nobody, but whenever you see an influx in the city of people from other countries, just different cultures, I'm not saying they don't mix with us, but they don't seem to really mix very well in West Texas. Not one person that I've spoken to, maybe I seen a comment on Facebook, but nobody has anything good to say about the Cuban influx. Well, it's like the Cuban takeover.
So here's the reason for that, or at least part of the reason. So when people are coming here legally through immigration, they're put through a process. They learn some basic English and social norms and things of that nature. When you're just walking across the border, you're just hanging with whoever you're hanging with. You meet at the bus stop. Where are you from? Venezuela. Oh, me too, homie. You know, click up, ride together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. But I mean, I would say this, and just as a point of conversation, and I talk to guys all the time. I do not speak to somebody on a location without asking them where they're from. And it's not because I'm worried that they're from another country. I just like to talk. And one of the chief things that I found wherever I've been in the United States, I meet people that from Odessa, from San Angelo, from Lubbock, or whatever. And I've met many people, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico. I've met a couple of people from up north, like Detroit, Wisconsin, down here driving trucks.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, you're out there working, doing a job, and most of those guys, whether they're from Detroit or from Venezuela, most of those guys are pretty conscientious and they're doing a good job. So no complaints with that. But what I would say is a point of conversation to any of those men, because like anything else, everybody can't be bad. Some of them got to be decent men. Act like you would in your home country around your mother and your wife and your daughter.
Thank you.
Act like there's a day of reckoning coming where somebody is going to have to decide whether to give you an opportunity to pursue citizenship here or to send you back to where you came from. And if y'all would do that, that would help reduce some of the craziness and some of their discomfort and some of the ladies' discomfort and everything else, because people are going to interact. They're going to have to interact. Everybody's got to go grocery shopping. Everybody's got to go pay their bills. Everybody's got to go to the DMV to get a license renewed or this or that. I would say, when we look at carloads of grown men showing up to get groceries at a place that's really, they'll help anybody that needs it, but I'm pretty sure was founded with the idea of people from this community who could no longer provide for themselves. We don't want nobody to go hungry. Hell, nobody, I'm sure there's those, 1 in a million oddballs, they could care less about the next person that comes along. By and large, none of us want to see anybody go hungry. Nobody wants to see anybody doing bad. And when people give their time and their resources to try to help their community, and then it turns into something of that nature where you're grown men coming and taking advantage of the generosity of the community. I mean, there's, if they had their monthly allotment of groceries and they set out, 100 baskets of groceries, every one of them that gets one is one old lady or one single mom that's not able to get one.
I mean, come on, Shane. It's called West Texas Food Bank. It's not feed.
Right. We are the world.
Yeah, exactly. Last statement on this, and we'll move on from this subject because I got two people who wanted to also touch on some subjects from Facebook. I asked for anybody that wanted to chime in, but the last point he says right here is, this is no joke, and the amount of these people I saw yesterday and had to help bring only men. And had to help bring the only men, honestly, was very alarming and disturbing. Stay alert. So the problem he's having and what he thinks is very alarming is there are a bunch of men. With that statement that there's only men, what does that mean to you, Shane? And we'll move on from this.
I know people that I grew up with are not going to come kick in their neighbors' doors and take their guns. And there's an ulterior motive why they would be fine, why our government would be fine with military-aged men coming across that border. You look at their our military recruitment numbers now. A couple months ago we saw a big deal. The recruitment numbers were way down, and obviously the wokeness in the military and the federal government stances on many issues contribute to that. It's not that everybody quit loving America. They pretty much became unwilling to go die for something that they think is full of shit. And also, why would I choose a career where I have no chance of climbing the ladder because of my skin color or my religion? So that's to lay at their door, that they're the cause of their own problem there. But they do know they've got X amount of millions of grown-ass men from other countries that are willing to put on a uniform and grab a gun and do whatever their bosses tell them to do. That's what they have.
Again, that post is from your buddy. Before we move on from that subject, Shane, can you vouch for that man? Because I couldn't believe what I read, but when I read this, I said this has too much detail to be fake. What are your thoughts on the man that wrote that post?
My absolute thought on Steve, I've known him, like I said, since I was a kid. This guy's, one, he doesn't just say shit just to say shit. He's not that guy. He's not somebody that's looking for fame or needing to make money. He's got his own money. He works hard, has his own company. He's able to do the things he wants to do. If he said that, it happened. He's not posting something for notoriety or views or clicks. I mean, that guy could care less about all that.
Should West Texans take heed to his warning?
I would say West Texans, every American should, but in particular here, I mean, we're going to see Texas has got to be a state. Well, you see the last several election cycles, we're going to run Beto O'Rourke for governor, for senator, for this, and now this Colin Allred guy. We're going to turn Texas blue. Well, they've been trying to do this for a long time. I believe it's Somalians that they settled in Amarillo. They settled tens of thousands of, and it's from one country in Africa, but they settled tens of thousands of them into a county up there. And for a long time, the only major municipality in Texas, maybe the largest municipality in the United States that was still reliably voting Republican, was Tarrant County, where Fort Worth is. And if you take a gander at what they've done, when they say they're flying people in, they know, okay, well, how many votes did Greg Abbott lose by or win by? Oh, let's say he won by 28,000. Well, let's put 25,000 Somalians in Amarillo, and let's put another 25,000 Venezuelans in Houston.
Let me touch on that real quick. You said in Amarillo that happened with the Somalians?
Yeah, it's been for a while.
Do you know anything? But can you touch on that more? Do you know anything more about that or not? The first time I heard, but I know.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Mall of America, right? Look at parts of where's the Mall of America? I forgot what.
So here's the thing. This is not just about today, right?
They're here.
They didn't just open this border yesterday, and the immigrants got here today. That's not what happened. This has been going on for decades. Go look at how California, when I was a kid, Ronald Reagan, as a Republican, was the governor of California before he became our president. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a Republican governor in the late 80s, I believe it was. Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. They purposely settle people and push people into areas where they're close to turning those states blue. And, I mean, if you go look, I would say the more recent example of that would probably be Colorado. And it's not because they think they can bring them here today and get a vote tomorrow. They know that for 2 or 3 generations,
it's a long game.
Once the kids are born here, they're able to vote. And it takes 2 or 3 generations for somebody to say, you know what, that's fucking crazy. And so they have 2 generations of Democratic voters. So let's say a guy that came here in 1973, the year I was born, and he was 30 years old. In 1974, he had a kid. In 1976, he had a kid. In 1979, he had a kid. He had 3 kids. All 3 of those kids have been voting for 15 or 20 years. And all 3 of those kids probably had 2 or 3 more kids that are now voting and probably voted in the last 2 election cycles. So they bring one man, one woman, and let's go further than that. Let's just say that the man they brought from, let's just say he was from Mexico, and a woman they brought was from Venezuela, and the man from Mexico married an American woman, and they had their kids. So you have their 3 kids that he had. Then you have from those 2 kids apiece, that's another 6, so that's 9. And the woman they brought from Venezuela, same thing. She married somebody, and there you have, just for 2 people, you have 18 voters 30 years later. you know,
And then multiply that.
while birth rates in America are going down and people are aborting babies.
I have a post up. I saw this off of Twitter. It says, why did Biden and Kamala import 20,000 Haitian migrants to one of the most Trump counties, the most pro-Trump counties of Ohio? And I posted that a couple hours ago. But basically, kind of piggybacking to what you're saying, is it by design? I don't know, but I do know.
Oh, it's by design, Nino.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate here.
Right.
But the point is, though, that's going to have to, like you just broke it down in very simple terms, as far as them having children, evolving into adults that are going to make decisions based on what their parents show them. But then when you're throwing 20,000 here, 30K here, and Odessa's getting, I mean, let me ask you this, Shane. Have you ever seen a Cuban or a Venezuelan in West Texas like you've seen them now 10, 20 years ago?
No, nowhere close to it. Nowhere close to it.
So besides that fact, and the fact that people are seeing them now coming to these food banks, right? And they're seeing carloads and carloads. You go out and you see them. They're here.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them. Now, I'm going to say they do tell me, the Cubans usually vote. Some are Trumpers. They're conservative. That's cool, right? But like you said, in order to stay here and to get the benefits, who are they going to really listen to, right, in the end? Which party is basically bending over to them and for them, right?
Right.
But the point is, if this is their plan, which I know the Democrats are not dumb, if they can, like you said, flip certain counties in Texas. In Amarillo, that's crazy. We need to do some more reporting on that one. But if they can flip certain counties, I mean, Texas is probably purple maybe at this point, right? What's going to happen when it does turn blue? And that's going to go to, the Democrats whenever it comes time to vote the next president in. So this is very alarming, and we need to take heed to this. Now, final words on this. I guess the immigration situation, we can circle back, but I got some other points we want to talk about here on the podcast. Go ahead.
It's one of those things, as tragic as it is, it has to stop, and it has to stop immediately. I'll just say this. You know how they say Rome wasn't built in a day? Rome didn't fall in a day either. Rome was not defeated militarily. Rome fell apart from mismanagement and immigration. They did much of the same things we did. They had slaves. They brought slaves in from all over the world. And then as people became free, and then they let immigrants come in to work because Romans got, I've got this, I've got that, You know how it is when you have property and resources and other people don't. You get lazy. You get soft. And that, it wasn't built in a day, but it didn't fall in a day.
So you're saying if we go unchecked, which this is kind of a stupid question, but to bring it home, if it goes unchecked, we will fall like Rome.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And to people that think that that's not possible, what would you tell them?
I would tell you, look anywhere in world history. Throughout the history of the world, you may think that advanced economics or technologies or political systems are immune to human nature. They're not. And it quite simply, you can boil it down to this. Go look at the teachers' retirement systems in a city like New York, and you wonder why, 10, 20% of people can read? They come through those education systems. They have to take anybody they can get who will be a teacher and hope that some of them are good teachers. And the systems are hemorrhaging because they're paying so many people retirement. They're paying more people who are in retirement than are actually teaching. And
whoa.
Once those systems are failing, they're going to fail miserably.
Okay. I put a post. We're filming our second pod. The next one should drop hopefully tomorrow. Y'all forgive me. We're getting this thing rolling. What issues are important to you in Midland? Sister Rhonda is a great patriot in Midland, says mental health in our community. My son's in particular. He's currently in the jail system and has been a nightmare for our family. Now, mental health coming up, we didn't know this word. So,
well,
go ahead, Shane. What are your thoughts on this? And this is Sister Rhonda here. Her son's in jail. If you got any advice for her and her son, but and I've heard bad things. Of course, jail's not meant to be a resort,
Right.
But that doesn't mean people need to be treated like animals. But the mental health issue, in the grand scheme of things, I think it is an important thing to talk about. But at the same time, like I said, to me as a man, I'm kind of old school, Shane. Shut up. Go to work. Men, don't cry in front of your wife and kids. I believe that you should never cry or even show emotion whatsoever like that. That's just the way I am, right? I'm a macho man, whatever you want to call me. But mental health, to me, I never grew up with that phrase. I'm still trying to learn today how to navigate, in life, dealing with, my children's mental well-being. But I never knew about this, Shane. I know you're probably similar. Touch on that, the mental health, especially in Midland.
The first thing that I would say is, when it comes to that, if your son is in any system, the jail, the state prison system, a hospital system, any kind, keep advocating and stay active. Find out what's going on. Talk to them. Let the people that administrate that system know that your son has somebody that cares about him and is going to pay attention to what's going on. By and large, the prison systems and they're so much more under a microscope and under control than they were a long time ago. It's not the wild, wild west. I mean, it is prison. You get wrong, you can get gone, but by and large, if you stay involved, advocate for them, let the administrators know, hey, there's people that care about this guy. That can make a huge difference. As far as just the aspect of mental health, it's kind of funny. The only reason I knew that there was such a thing as mental health, I had an uncle that when I was young, he was my favorite uncle because, he played catch with me all the time, football, baseball. He was cool, rode a motorcycle. He was my favorite uncle. And then, he got in a situation and it was actually drug related. And he ended up in a state hospital on some LSD. And it was something he couldn't shake for a good while. And
what area?
If I remember right, he was down like somewhere by Galveston. I never got to go visit him.
No, but where did he get hit by this stuff? Where did he take this stuff?
Oh, he was out here in middle of Odessa.
Oh, okay, and what year? By your range?
Must have been around somewhere between 75 and 77. I mean, I was a little kid when he quit coming around, and but then when he came back, he's going to work, he's working, and best thing that ever happened to him, my aunt, we met her. I don't know how he met her. I don't know that story. Like I said, I was pretty young. I do remember thinking it was one of the coolest days of my life because I loved my uncle so much, and I could see, like he's right. He wasn't right, but he's right now, and it was God and a good woman, and it turned his life around. Couldn't be more proud of the way he lived his life after that. I would tell you with that mental health aspect, I knew there was things that could cause issues, but I think the reason that we didn't really know, like what we see now with people walking down the street with machetes or jumping in the back of people's trucks and wigging out on dope in the streets. Back when I was a kid, they had mental institutions. And, people were crazy. They put them in a mental institution. They didn't just take them to the hospital, get them over their overdose or whatever. If they went to there for an overdose and they weren't right, they put them somewhere. And now they don't. All those resources, and this is another, this is part of the waterfall of what happens. These things happen. When you start allocate, you want to send $200 billion to Ukraine, you want to spend $50 billion on illegal immigrants benefits and all of these crazy things you want to spend money on, you start chopping off. Well, who was advocating for money for mental institutions? Nobody. Nobody was doing it because nobody knew we needed it. And I would just say, and there are some people that outside of everything else, they're probably that probably just have a situation or maybe there was some trauma so great that they just couldn't get right and they needed that help. And with the way that these modern drugs and stuff and just the lack of control over people with letting them live on the streets and camp under overpasses and do all these things that they're doing. I mean, it's no wonder that they can get so far gone that they can't imagine living any other way. They can't imagine it.
I see it on the daily. You really, I ain't gonna lie, Shane. You start talking, man. I just start getting my blood boils, man, because the things you say. Hello, we're in West Texas. It pisses me off from everything you're saying, Shane. I mean, I just say with all due respect, but I see the mental health as an issue in Midland, like you said, the people on the street, really, because they're out there with our people. And God forbid, I mean, we saw that video that man I put on the last clip on the last pod. He jumps in the back of that vehicle. God forbid that happen to our wives or kids, or they're walking amongst these people that I don't know if they should be put in an asylum, or I don't know what they should do with them. I don't know. I'm just saying that's very hella dangerous, and I see them every day.
So let me throw this curve into this mental health conversation. I saw a deal the other day. It was on X, and a woman says, whether you know it or not, every woman has a story about a guy that either sexually assaulted her or came dangerously close to sexually assaulting her. And I actually commented on that. And I said, what I said was, that's because women vote for people who will not let men severely punish those who do this. So I would probably say if we just say the general homeless population or people that have checked out of the system, whatever you want to call it, they're probably about an average mixture. And when I say that, probably 50% of them probably have problems that they need like serious clinical therapeutical help before there's any chance that they can get back on the right path. And probably 50% of them got tired of working and always being broke, paying their bills and knowing that it was just going to be that way till they die. And they say, you know what? It's not worth it. So my take on that would be the 50% that didn't just get tired, the 50% that got something that needs fixing, maybe 50% of that, so maybe a quarter of that general population, they've probably done something that caused the trauma. I mean, what did they do to somebody in their life or, maybe to their daughter or their whatever? It's the same thing. We find all these people. It's just like you see in Antifa. How many, you take the Kyle Rittenhouse example and bring that in there. A lot of those guys were guys that have no real structured life, no normal job or anything like that. They go where life takes them. They show up at a protest, they're burning and looting and doing what they're doing, run across Kyle Rittenhouse and they're dead. What are the chances that two of them are sex offenders? Damn. So, there's a partial solution. So if you reduce that by 25%, just by, if you do something to a child, the elderly or a woman, that's it. There's no second chances.
I totally agree, because that's like the most, vulnerable in society. Now, to wrap it up with Rhonda, I would say great points with the mental health. If your son is in prison or in jail and they do have somebody calling, I guarantee you, like Shane said, the prison system ain't like it used to be. Now, I'll be honest. I interviewed somebody in prison. They said it's horrible right now, but the way social media is now and the way prison systems are, I'm sure if you are on that phone and you are calling, like you said, show them that you care. And that can probably go back from now till back in the day. I remember my aunt would tell the school, the principal, I care about my son. He's not going to be over here skipping school, whatever. That pressure on someone to do their job correctly, it means a lot. If someone's calling my job, my company I'm working for, and they're putting pressure on an 18-wheeler, they'll call in that you're not driving correctly or whatever, and that they take it very serious. Okay, so I would say great point on that. Just keep on it, Rhonda, and keep the pressure on them and pray for your son. I believe in the power of prayer. And the mental health issue, to be honest, like I said, I'm fairly still learning about it because I'm old school with it, and I never even heard that word in my life.
The reason why is you can't fathom it because nobody has a mental problem until they give up. You're gonna now you can have issues, you can have daily problems, you can have, but my personal belief, it can't be categorized a mental problem until you give up. When you make a decision to just stop functioning, and you can have things leading up to that, but that's when you got to be a man and you got to say, you know what, it doesn't matter. I got to do what I got to do.
I mean,
keep on trucking.
Man, amen, Shane. That's
God bless Rhonda and her son. I don't think I've ever met her son. I know Rhonda, and it's horrible to know that she's going through that. She's a good person.
Hell yeah.
And I'm sure her son is like most of our sons. He might have made a mistake or whatnot, and I hope it can get worked out. I see this all the time. The one thing that I wish that these young people knew, and I don't know how young her son is, but he's in jail, so he's an adult. But I wish these young men knew all of this is temporary. Every problem that you think you have, every victory you think you have, it's all temporary. If it's going great, it's going to get worse. And if it's going bad, it's going to get better. And no matter how bad you think somebody hurt you, or even if you think they disrespected you, and the moment has passed, it's the past. Don't sit and stew over it. Go on about your business and get on with life.
Man, that's touching me right now, Shane, because even me, I've learned that in order to succeed in life, or to at least keep my sanity and not give up, right, is that I don't really celebrate my victories or my defeat. Like, I don't celebrate too much on the victories because I know the defeats are right there too. You know what I'm saying? I don't show emotion. I try not to show emotion or get riled up either or.
Yeah.
I try to be stoic, like, through it all, through the ups and downs, because the ups and downs are going to come. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the next message. Karen says, animal welfare. The amount of animals being killed on a daily basis because of overpopulation. Now, I'm going to say this. Our neighbors, they're from somewhere else. I'm going to just say like that, okay? They have a different kind of culture. They have 6 dogs terrorizing the neighborhood, okay? And I have to call animal control to a certain degree, Shane, in the city, because that's their job, right? And there's a daycare across my street. My dogs can't come outside. My wife's getting, they running up on me at 3 a.m. when I go to work. You know what I'm saying? It's a problem. And Karen is right. I see a lot of postings on Facebook about animals, dogs. We see them hitting the side of the road, overpopulation. We could touch on that in a minute, but I'll say it to say this. Something is up with Midland as far as the animals. I don't know if the animal control is not doing a good enough job. I don't know if we need to blame more the animal owners. But like I said, my neighbors let their dogs run the whole south side, and throughout the whole south side, there's animals everywhere. So I do agree. Animals being out in the public in multitudes, it's an issue. And then they do have to take them out, and they put them in the shelter, and they have to unfortunately take them out, I guess, right? I don't know how that works, but I do know that dealing with animals, I'm getting riled up thinking about it. It's an issue, especially in the south side of Midland. I don't know why. I always say, hey, man, the whites over there, they take care of their dogs pretty good. In the nice side of town, you don't see the same stuff you see over here in my section. I'm just going to be honest. People don't like when I say that. But your thoughts on the animal welfare and the overpopulation in the city and even where you're at, Shane?
Well, I've seen it. And I've seen it, south side of Midland, west side of Midland, east side of Midland.
Well, we really don't see it in the north side, let's be honest.
Yeah,
or the nicer sides of town.
I think as a rule, there's probably more animal control. Like the city probably spends more time sending people over there when there is an issue because there's not that many issues.
Good point.
So, if people are breaking into cars, every night, no matter how much you try to stop it, eventually you're going to give up. But when people generally are not turning dogs loose or not having 2 or 3 females that are having litters at the same time and just dumping loads of puppies, not getting their dogs fixed, that would be the main thing, I would say. I would bet most people on the north side, they get their dogs spayed and neutered. You have to... If you're going to be responsible, I would tell you, anybody that loves one of their pets, they know that it's somewhat like having a kid. in the fact that you're responsible for that animal.
You're right. That's what my wife said. Well, if we get our dogs, it's till they die. We're making a commitment, right?
So, and that doesn't just mean feeding and watering the dog. That means interacting with the dog, making sure the dog doesn't go out and hurt somebody, or making sure the dog doesn't go out and get hurt, ran over by a car or whatever.
They're fed.
That's your responsibility. Yeah. What I would say is the chief cause of these problems with the animals comes right back to the citizenry. You got a bunch of people that won't even take care of their kids, but they got 2 or 3 damn dogs. Of course they're not worried about whether when they open the door, if the dog runs off, they'll see them when they see them. That's how they see it. I would say chiefly there probably does need to be more resources allocated for animal control. And I know I heard something on K-Well about that not too long ago. They're really looking at that. People care about animals, and they should care about animals, especially dogs, because, my opinion, we don't deserve dogs. Dogs might be, however it transpired, it doesn't matter what you did that day. It doesn't matter how big of a dick you were. It doesn't matter whether you were a good person or a bad person. A dog is the closest thing to a mother's love, because when you come sit down, that dog is just going to want to love you and want to be around you. It's going to want you to pet it, scratch its ears, and it doesn't care what goes on with you and the rest of the world. It's just about you and the dog. But, I would say that's probably coming. I know I heard them talking about it.
Hell yeah.
What people can do I always say as individually, as a community, you can't do anything but talk. As an individual, spay and neuter your dogs and teach your children to spay and neuter their dogs. And enough people do that, and you start reducing this problem, you start putting a dent in it.
Man, I don't even want to go to the biblical aspect, but I wonder how that works with that, because that's like that's like population control for animals, right? But I guess that is an issue that we have as civilization. Like, if they don't get spayed and neutered, right, what's really going to happen? It's really going to be a big issue, right?
Well, so you could say that. You could say that's population control. But honestly, in the wild, if all these dogs were living in the wild, there wouldn't be so many of them. Why? Because the Chihuahuas and the little pugs and all that would be getting tore up by the bigger dogs, by the coyotes, by the wolves. They
probably wouldn't be
right. Yeah, there would not be such a huge population of them.
Okay, we're at the hour, but I just want to squeeze this in real quick. Tyreek Hill, the arrest video went viral. Dolphins star handcuffed hours before the NFL game. Now, I've seen losers like Plies, blame Trump, say this is, Trump's fault, or this had happened under Trump's administration. Hey, idiot, Plies. Kamala's in office right now. Joe Biden's in office. This has nothing to do with Trump, but they're using this to blame Trump. I don't know if you know too much about this case. I know it went viral on Twitter. He's laying on the ground. They're harassing him. So it looks like they're not white officers. Look, they're Cubans. They're saying they're Latin officers. Your thoughts on Tyreek Hill?
It's a funny thing. So my opinion would be, just from what I saw, and I saw it, it didn't look to me like Tyreek was doing anything crazy or acting out around or anything like that. I'm very capable myself. I've had a bad day. I had a bad evening the night before, went to bed without supper. I get up and go to work in the morning. I go pull up to get some gas, and every pump is full of vehicles where nobody's getting gas. They're all inside the store getting cigarettes, getting whatever they're getting. Nobody's pumping gas, but they all parked at a gas pump. And then I get through everything goes like that, and I get to somewhere and somebody says something ignorant, or that I think they should know better than what they said. I've had a bad day, and I'm pissed. I had to wait 20 minutes to get gas for no reason other than people were inconsiderate. So I act like a dick. And any officer, I don't care what color the officers were. Really, I don't care what color Tyreek is. I know it matters to other people. Probably if a 20-something-year-old white kid, well-groomed, got out of that car, they probably react different. They probably, because first thing I'm thinking, if that kid gets out looking like that, hell, this might be the mayor's son. This might be, I don't know whose son this is. But guarantee Tyreek gets out, looks how he looks. When I was 20 years old, if I got out of that car, I probably would have got slammed to the concrete too, because I know they could tell I'm up to no good, But, I think anybody's capable of having a bad day. When I look at those situations, honestly, what I want to see more than anything else, when something happens and an officer acts like that, I want to see how the other officers react. Do they corral that officer in and say, hey, bub, hey, going a little too far? Are they honest about what transpired? Do they all have the same matching story? Because if you got 6 guys and 6 guys got the same matching story, they're lying because everybody sees something different. Now, it don't have to be wildly divergent.
There has to be,
but the only way me and my boys ever had the same story was when we sat down and said, hey, listen, we're going to tell them this, and this.
Stay on story.
Yeah.
So Shane, let me just ask you, do you think that they went overboard on Tyreek?
I think, yeah. I think they did.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that rises to the level of brutality. I would say it was definitely unprofessional, overly aggressive. But when you have a perverted justice system like we have, you can expect nothing less. They're allowed every day to treat different people differently. They treat each other differently than they treat the general population.
And it shouldn't be like that.
No, it shouldn't.
I'm going to be honest, Shane, and I want to go longer, touch on that with maybe the next show, but I've seen some other videos of some police acting crazy. There was a black officer that had a pistol to a woman's face telling her to shut up. Did you see that one too?
I did not see that.
That one just went viral. I'll tag you on Twitter, but I've seen that one. I've seen the one where there's a Latin officer going to someone's house saying, yes, I own your house now.
Right.
Okay, look, the point is, I back the blue, but I've had issues with the police in Midland. Okay, they illegally detained me at the Beto O'Rourke rally. They criminally trespassed me, even though Robert Francis O'Rourke said I could speak. The Democrats, they were in attendance, lied, said that I had assaulted somebody. I'm a Christian. I'm live streaming. I don't go to an event to assault nobody. But they used that to pull me out.
That's an old favorite. That's an old favorite fallback to justify doing something.
Exactly. They lie on me. They take me out. The police handcuff me, have me in the paddy wagon for 40 minutes, harassing me. I haven't had a really good rapport with the Midland, City of Midland Police Department, to be honest. And I'm not trying to bash police, but I'm just saying I do see to where you said there's unfair situations or they don't treat everybody fairly. And I would think that they actually back the Constitution like they should.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That would take because let me say something real quick. When they pull you over, you really don't have to comply like as far as too much or there's a certain way you can handle it. But if you start pulling that card, that constitutional card, I've seen it get ugly. Right? Because they're like, just don't be a prick. Just speak to them.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that county sheriffs are elected. I believe 99% of jurisdictions, police chiefs are appointed.
By who?
By mayors, city councils, city managers, somebody. They find candidates and they decide who that's going to be.
Right, because they can fire them.
Right. So that's a fundamental flaw in local policing. And the reason that I say that is I believe that all of that unprofessionalism, misconduct, even when they brutalize somebody in the cases that they do, it starts with the leadership and the figurehead. I guarantee you a police chief that says he gets in that room and he says, listen, I've got your back. If you're being professional, if you're following the Constitution and you're doing your job, I got your back. I don't care about this job enough that I won't back you up. But if you're being unprofessional, you're being abusive, unnecessarily aggressive, these people are the reason we have a job. These communities are the reason that we have a job. And when you start with a leadership like that, and I think that has to start with electing them. You can't have a guy that knows that as long as they don't kill somebody, he's not in danger of losing his job. running a police department. Doesn't matter. I don't care how big the city is or how small the city is. You give somebody that type of leeway and no accountability. I mean, it lends itself to bad results.
And that's why I loved Shane Manziel's take on it. It's very a lot of common sense there, Shane. And we're going to wind it down. Final words for everybody watching. Shane, go ahead.
I would tell everybody, first thing I would tell you is make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure that everybody in your family that's eligible to vote is registered to vote. You get out there and you vote for who you think is going to actually do something for us, the American people. If we want our wages to go up, we need to secure that border. If we don't want to send our money to this war, that war, and the next war that they can find, we definitely do not need to have the same people. And I'm not just talking about Democrats. Funny thing, Dick Cheney is not going to endorse Trump. George Bush is not going to endorse Trump. Mike Pence is not going to endorse Trump. Liz Cheney's endorsing Kamala. So this tells me one thing. I like the way Tucker put it. Those people all believe that it's okay to get rich off of killing people. They're fine with that. And if you get in the way of what they have, what they've created as their system of governance and their way of interacting with the world, they're going to be your sworn enemy. And that's why you look over this whole thing that's transpired since Trump ran for president. The fact that he wanted to shut that border, he wouldn't let them just start wars and keep, this conflict and that conflict going. Those are the things that got Trump the animosity from the Republicans and the Democrats.
I agree. that was like he kicked the hornet's nest with that one.
Oh, yeah.
That was the main thing he came out swinging. But awesome take on it. Thank you, Shane Manziel, for joining me on the pod. We're going to be having weekly episodes, God willingly, y'all. Again, Shane and it's me, Nino. We thank you for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think. God bless Texas and God bless America. We're out of here.